Okay, so millefolium is a remedy that is quite useful for hemorrhaging. So you may recall when we were chatting about arnica a little bit earlier on, I spoke about arnica with regards to excessive bleeding. So you may recall the case of the dog that had been hit in a motor vehicle accident and was unconscious on the side of the road. So where we administered things like aconite, followed by arnica, and I mentioned within that case, because of the bleeding out through the nose, this is very often an indication of head trauma. But when it comes to millefolium, its kind of typical application is for hemorrhage, inappropriate hemorrhage, or as a result of trauma. So millefolium is also known as yarrow. You probably have come across it as yarrow, and we see it growing wildly all over the UK. So I'm sure some of you recognize the flowers in a plant. So any hemorrhages where there's bright red bleeding, this bleeding is not coagulated or dark or clotty, it's bright red and very easy flowing. So you find any kind of hemorrhage, whether it's a severing of an arm, whether it's a head trauma and we've got blood leaving through the nose and the ears, or something like a menstrual bleed where there's a very heavy blood flow, but again it's bright red bleeding. So uncontrolled bleeding, particularly after an accident or a surgery. Sometimes you may find individuals that have been inappropriately given arnica prior to a surgery that then end up hemorrhaging during surgery. Millefolium can be quite useful for this. Also postpartum. So some ladies suffer from quite severe postpartum hemorrhaging. Millefolium is brilliant for postpartum hemorrhaging. And again, you can kind of administer the millefolium every 15 minutes, so at 200 C every 15 minutes, which works beautifully to stop or inhibit that excessive blood loss. It's also a really useful one with nosebleed. So you find these individuals, so they suffer from very easy hemorrhaging from the nose at the slightest blowing of the nose. You may see this in kiddies when they pick their nose and it bleeds. However, there are quite a few remedies that do this. Phosphorus is another remedy. Phosphorus also has kind of bright red bleeding, so you may want to kind of consider both of them. But generally, we find millefolium is the first aid response for excessive blood loss. It's also been used quite extensively. You find a lot of herbalists use yarrow when we have menstrual bleeds where there's excessive blood loss, but also post miscarriages. So when you have individuals that have either threatened miscarriage, so they may perhaps be coming towards the end of their first trimester or in their second trimester and they're starting to lose a bit of blood, millefolium has been known to kind of stop or seize that blood loss and save baby essentially. But yeah, something to kind of think of, both postpartum hemorrhaging, but also miscarriage or threatened miscarriage.